I'm going to tell you something the coaching certification industry probably doesn't want you to hear. I have two certifications, a health coaching certification from IIN and a stress management certification. And I had several others, nutrition, wellness, because I used to be a health coach. And I got those because I thought I needed more credentials before I could really help people. And I want to tell you about a client session I had after I got that second certification, which is the stress management certification. I was coaching a woman over Zoom who was drowning in stress. Basically, she was burned out. And I started sharing what I had learned, right? Which is what you do when you get your certifications, like the different types of stress and the clinical frameworks and all the terminology I learned. And she looked at me, her eyes were glazed over. She basically did not care about any of that. What she wanted was to feel like a human being again. And the certification did not give me what I needed to help her get there. My own lived experience of burnout did. The moment I stopped teaching her and started telling her what I actually went through and what actually got me out of burnout, everything shifted. That is when I knew the paper was not the credential, my story was. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, before I go any further, I want to be clear about something. I am not here to tell you that certifications are useless. They are not. They're very, very helpful. Some of them are genuinely good programs with great frameworks and real community and real value. What I am here to tell you is that a certification is not what is standing between you and your first coaching client. And the coaching industry has done a very good job of convincing you that that is the problem. Here is what that industry looks like in real numbers because I think you deserve the honest picture here. An ICF certified coaching program can cost anywhere from $4,000 to over $19,000, depending on the provider. The most affordable all in option runs about $4,300. Now, the most expensive programs like the Hudson Institute will run you $16,500 for 9 months of training. And here is what they do not put in the brochure. Certified coaches do charge more per session on average than uncertified coaches, about 20 to 40% more. But here's the part nobody is explaining. That premium is not because of the certification or that paper. It is because certified coaches believe they are worth more, and that belief is what actually drives the higher rate, which means the real question is not how do I get certified? The real question is how do I build that belief that I am worth what I want to charge and sit. A $4,000 certificate is a very expensive way to answer that question when you already have the answer sitting in your own story. Let me tell you what my client said to me when the testimonials started coming in. Not once did anyone say thank you for your certification. Not once did anyone mention the frameworks that I learned or the credentials I had earned. What they said was, you really get me. I feel like you actually understand what I was going through. That's it. That's the whole thing. She was not paying for my certification. She was paying for my understanding. She was paying for the fact that when she described what she was feeling, I did not hand her a clinical definition. I handed her my own story and I said, I know exactly what that feels like because I lived it. Now, here is what the research confirms though. The myth of the expert is a false belief that a title automatically equals relevant superior knowledge. People delegate trust to labels because labels feel safer than uncertainty. But what actually converts a stranger into a paying client is not your label, it is your relatability. It is the moment she thinks that this person gets it. And your 20 plus years of lived corporate experience, your burnout story, your transition, your calling, that is more relatable to your ideal client than any certification or curriculum ever written because it is real, and real is what she is starving for. Now, let me talk about pricing because this is where the certification conversation gets really interesting. The industry will tell you that getting getting certified lets you charge more. And technically, that is true. But here's what they are not telling you about why. Now, in my experience and in my observation of coaches who are actually building sustainable businesses, the certification is not what earns the rate increase. Working with real clients is what earns it. The experience of sitting across from someone or on Zoom with someone, helping them move through something hard, watching them come out on the other side of that, and collecting that testimony. That is your credential. That is what justifies that higher rate. Now, get this. You should not raise your rates because you got a piece of paper. Okay, hear me good. You should raise your rates when you have more demand than you can personally handle. When women are coming to you faster than you can actually take them on. That is your market telling you that your price is too low. That is the signal, not the certificate. Now listen, and when you do raise your rates, do it incrementally. Maybe 20% increase. Make sure that it's enough to reflect your growing demand without pricing out the women you are actually called to serve before you have built a reputation that supports a premium price. The certification puts the cart before the horse, in my opinion. But the truth is, you build the confidence by doing the work, by taking the client, by showing up imperfectly and watching God fill the gaps. And then you raise the rate because the demand earned it. Here's what I want you to sit with for a minute. The industry calls it certification. God calls it calling. And here's the difference. A certification is something you purchase. A calling is something you are given. And when God gives you a calling, he does not attach a prerequisite. He does not say, go get 125 training hours and 500 documented coaching hours and then come back, and then I will use you. He says, go, and I will be with you. Moses did not have a certification. Esther did not have a certification. Every woman God has ever used to change something or help change or help someone that needed changing was called before she felt qualified. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. Now, I am not saying skip all training forever. Learning is stewardship. Growing is obedience. But there is a difference between investing in your growth and hiding behind credentials because you are afraid to start. One is faith in action. The other is fear dressed up in some spiritual language. And only you know which one you are doing. Real quick before we keep going, if you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, I generally do not know what kind of coach I'm supposed to be, certification or not, I have something that I feel would help you right now, like immediately. My free quiz, what type of faith-based coach are you secretly meant to be? And it will show you in about 3 minutes exactly where your gifts are pointing. The link is in the description. If you're listening on the Launch Your Coaching Ministry podcast, the link will be in the show notes. Go take it after this video or after you listen to this podcast. It's free, takes about 3 minutes, more clarity than another certification ever will give you. So what do you actually do instead of spending $4,000 to $19,000 on a certification you may not actually need? So here is the honest roadmap. So first, take one client, not a paying one yet, if that feels like too much. It could be a practice client. someone in your network who is dealing with exactly the problem that you are called to solve. And then you offer to work with them for free or at a reduced rate for about a month. Show up, do the work, and then let your lived experience lead. And then watch what happens. Now, second, collect the testimony from them. Ask them specifically what shifted. What did they feel before working with you? And then what do they feel now that you're done coaching them? And ask them to put it in writing. That testimony is worth way more than any credential because it is real evidence that your coaching works. And real evidence is what builds the belief that supports higher rates. And then third, start charging. Not after you feel ready, not after you have more testimonials than you can actually count, right? Start charging after the first or second practice client. A small number, something that feels like a stretch, but not a fantasy. And then raise it incrementally as your demand comes. And fourth, I want you to keep learning, not from a certification program necessarily, but from books, from mentors, from other coaches, from your clients themselves. Your clients will teach you way more about how to coach than any training program ever will because they show you in real time what works and what does not. Now, the certification is not the first step, okay? The client is. So here's the honest answer nobody is giving you. You might need a certification eventually if you want to work in, let's say, a corporate setting, if you want to charge executive coaching rates, if you want the ICF credential to open specific doors, then yes, that investment might make sense for you down the road, okay? But for right now, at the beginning, when you have 20 plus years of corporate experience, you have a burnout story, you have a calling and a specific woman you know you're meant to serve. The certification is not what's missing. The client is. So go get the client. Let your story lead, let the testimonials build, and let the demand earn the rate increase. And trust that the God who called you already knew exactly what you had and what you were missing when he gave you the assignment. He did not call you by accident, and he did not call you incomplete. Start with what you have. That has always been enough. So if this video or this podcast episode gave you the permission to stop waiting and start Christian Woman's Blueprint to your first coaching clients. Now, this is my self-paced mini course, and it walks you through how to package your expertise, how to price it with confidence, and how to land your first clients without spending another dollar on credentials that you actually don't need yet. The link is in the description, and if you are not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Subscribe, join us, because every week we have this kind of honest conversation about building a coaching business or coaching ministry, I like to call it, that is rooted in real faith and real strategy. I'll see you in the next one.